I'm Cody. I'm 24, and I just graduated college last year, first in my family to do it. 4 years of grinding, pulling all-nighters, working part-time gigs to keep myself afloat, and somehow making it all the way to the end. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, never have been, but I work hard. I plan. I keep my head down. That's always been my thing. Now, before you start thinking this is some feel-good post about overcoming adversity and walking across the stage to thunderous applause, don't. This isn't one of those stories. Because when I crossed that stage, when they called my name and I turned to smile at the crowd, my parents weren't there. Let me back up. I come from a traditional family. You know, the kind where everything looks fine on the outside, but there's always that one sibling who somehow takes up 90% of the oxygen in the room. In my case, that was my older sister, Taylor. She's 2 years older than me. Always dramatic, always the center of attention type. If she stubs her toe, the whole family knows about it. If she gets a haircut, there's a Facebook album. If she cries, the world must stop spinning until she's okay again. And my parents? Well, they're the enablers. Especially my mom. I don't think I've ever seen her tell Taylor no. Ever. Not once. It's like Taylor's wants, feelings, and schedule always took priority, no matter how ridiculous the situation was. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the easy kid. I didn't complain much. I didn't rebel. I figured if I stayed out of the way and focused on doing my own thing, eventually I'd get noticed too. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Now, the thing about Taylor is that she always finds something new to obsess over. There was the brief, I'm gonna be a travel vlogger phase, lasted 3 months and 4 poorly edited YouTube videos. Then came the yoga obsession, the vegan cleanse that made every family dinner a nightmare, and the time she got engaged to a guy she met at Coachella after 5 days. That one didn't even make it to Thanksgiving. But the one that really stuck? Her dog. A tiny little Maltese named Sir Fluffington. And no, I'm not kidding. She insists we call him that, Sir Fluffington. She once made me redo an entire Snapchat caption because I just wrote the dog and not his full name. That dog has a better wardrobe than I do. I've seen it. She has a whole Instagram account dedicated to him. He's got sweaters, bow ties, booties for when it's rainy, and even this ridiculous mini birthday crown she makes him wear every June. You think I'm exaggerating? I wish I was. So anyway, back to graduation. I'd been sending my parents reminders for months. I told them the date as soon as I knew it. Gave them the time, location, parking info. Even offered to book the hotel myself. I didn't expect a big celebration. I just wanted them to be there. To see me walk. To clap. Maybe take a picture with me. Something. The morning of my graduation, I was already nervous. My stomach was in knots. I kept checking my phone, expecting a "we're almost there" text. But nothing came. I called my mom around 9 a.m., trying to keep it light. "Hey, you guys on the road?" There was a pause. Then her voice came through, a little too casual. "Oh, honey. About that. We're not gonna make it." I remember just freezing. Like my brain didn't process it at first. "What do you mean you're not gonna make it?" "Taylor's dog has a grooming appointment today," she said, like that explained everything. She booked it weeks ago, and it's really hard to get in with this groomer. You know how important Sir Fluffington's coat is. "Are you serious right now?" I said. I could feel the heat rising in my face. Well, she's been planning this for a while. You know how anxious he gets when his routine is off. Taylor didn't want to cancel on him last minute. And we didn't want to disappoint her. There was a silence. One of those heavy, awkward ones where you realize you've always been the background character in your own family. "You didn't want to disappoint Taylor," I repeated. "But skipping my college graduation? That's fine." "Oh, don't be so dramatic," my mom said, like I was being ridiculous for even being hurt. "We'll watch the recording later. Just send us the link." That was it. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I managed to walk that stage with a fake smile because I didn't want to ruin the moment for myself. But when I saw all the other grads hugging their families afterward, posing for pictures, holding flowers and gift bags, I felt like a ghost. Like I didn't exist. I went home that night and sat in my apartment alone, still wearing my gown. No texts. No calls. No congratulations. Just silence. I didn't say anything for a few weeks. I didn't even tell them I was upset. I thought maybe they'd realize what they'd done and reach out. Maybe they'd apologize. They didn't. So I stopped calling. Stopped texting. Didn't come home for Thanksgiving. Ignored their "we miss you" messages at Christmas. I figured if I didn't matter enough for them to miss my graduation over a dog, then they didn't get to have access to me whenever it was convenient. It was the quietest year of my life, and also the most peaceful. I started focusing on work, saved up, moved into a new apartment, got promoted. I even started seeing someone, though I kept that private. For the first time, I felt like I was building something that was mine. Then, just last week, almost a full year later, I got an email. Subject, exciting news. Ring. I opened it, and there it was. A big pastel wedding registry banner, followed by a short message from my mom. Hi Cody. Hope you're doing well. Taylor is getting married next month. We'd love for you to be part of the celebration. We know it's short notice, but we were wondering if you'd be willing to help with the venue cost. It's about $60,000, and we're a little short. Taylor thought it would mean a lot coming from you. Here's the link to the registry too. Let us know. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. This was just so them. So Taylor. So typical. And that's when the idea hit me. A small, simple sure was all I replied. Just one word. No punctuation. Because if they wanted to play games with me, fine. But I was done being the quiet one. And what I did next made them wish they'd never sent that email. It didn't take long after I hit send on that one-word email, sure, before the texts started pouring in. At first, they were all sunshine and butterflies. Mom. Oh, Cody, thank you. That means so much to us. And to Taylor. She was so touched when I told her you said yes. Mom. 5 minutes later, this wedding is going to be just perfect. We're so glad we can count on you. Count on me. Right. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Let them think what they wanted. That was always the family dynamic anyway. Taylor asks, Taylor gets. Cody stays quiet. Cody gets forgotten. But not this time. Not anymore. For a few days, things stayed oddly quiet. I started bracing myself for the catch. Because there had to be one, right? I mean, they were asking me to foot the bill for a $60,000 wedding venue like it was no big deal. I don't care how bougie Taylor is or how delusional my parents have become. You don't casually ask your estranged son for that kind of money unless you've really lost the plot. And then the follow-up email arrived. It was from my dad this time. Short, direct, and cold in that classic passive-aggressive tone he's perfected over the years. Subject, quick update. Cody, since you kindly agreed to help with the venue, Taylor's fiancé, Mason, will be forwarding you the invoice soon. Please make sure to pay it by the 14th so we can lock everything in with the planner. Dad. No, thank you. No, we appreciate this. Just an expectation. Like I was some kind of ATM that finally started working again after a year in maintenance mode. Still, I didn't reply. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number with a screenshot of the invoice attached. $61,783.47 due in 2 weeks. The message just said, Hey, this is Mason. Thanks for covering this. My mom says the views at this place are insane. No introduction. No. Hi. I'm the guy marrying your sister. Just straight to the money. You ever get that weird feeling where you're angry, but it's buried under this thick layer of disbelief? That's where I was. It was so absurd, it was almost funny. Almost. That night, I went for a long walk to clear my head. My girlfriend Emily kept asking if I was okay. I didn't want to drag her into the mess, so I just told her I was dealing with some old family stuff. She didn't press. She never does. That's one of the things I love about her. But when I got home, I couldn't sleep. I laid there thinking about every time I'd been sidelined for Taylor's needs. Every birthday party she ruined by crying over the wrong cake. Every time we had to cancel plans because Taylor wasn't in a good place emotionally. Every time I made an achievement and got a pat on the head while Taylor got a parade for not burning her toast. I thought about my high school graduation, how Taylor had a minor panic attack that morning because her prom dress didn't fit right, and my mom spent the whole ceremony texting her updates. I thought about the time I got accepted into my dream internship, and the same day, Taylor announced she was thinking of writing a children's book, and suddenly that was the big family news. But most of all, I thought about last year, my college graduation, the single biggest moment of my life up to that point. And they skipped it, not because of a medical emergency, not because of a scheduling conflict, because Taylor's dog needed a haircut. And now here they were, acting like I was the one who owed them something. That was the breaking point. I knew what I had to do, and it wasn't going to be loud. It wasn't going to be dramatic. It was going to be cold, precise, and surgical. I started doing some digging. First, I looked into the wedding venue itself. Gorgeous place, I'll admit. Some mountain estate with a waterfall, glass ceiling reception hall, and private garden rooms. The kind of place that probably makes you sign a non-refundable contract 6 months out. Sure enough, I found it. They had a website with FAQs, and I even called pretending to be a curious groom to confirm some details. Turns out they require full payment to hold the date, and they charge a 25% penalty if payment is late. Good to know. I saved the info and sat on it for a bit. In the meantime, my mom kept the love bombing going. She even sent me a voice note one morning. Her voice all syrupy sweet, saying how proud they were of me for doing the right thing, and how Taylor had always looked up to me, even if she didn't show it. The kicker? She ended it with, "We knew we could count on you to finally step up for the family." Finally step up. Like all those years of being ignored, pushed aside, and taken for granted were just warm-ups for this moment. My real debut as the family financier. I was done being the good son. The one who quietly eats disrespect because it's easier than confrontation. I didn't burn bridges, but I wasn't about to let them cross mine like it was a public road anymore. Then came the real shocker. One Saturday afternoon, about 2 weeks before the supposed due date for the venue, I got a knock at my apartment door. Emily and I had just gotten back from the grocery store, and I figured it was one of the neighbors. It wasn't. It was Taylor. Hair curled, sunglasses on top of her head, latte in one hand, little dog carrier slung over the other arm, with Sir Fluffington poking his head out, of course. I stood there for a second, stunned. We hadn't spoken face-to-face in over a year. Not since she flaked on my graduation with some half-hearted sorry, it was last-minute text. She smiled like we were best friends. "Hey, bro," she said, walking past me without waiting for an invitation. "Nice place." Emily looked confused, mouthing, "Who is this?" From the hallway. Taylor sat down like she owned the couch, crossed her legs, and dropped her Gucci bag on the floor. "So," she said, petting her dog like a Bond villain. "Let's talk numbers." I just stood there, trying to decide whether to laugh or scream. She kept going. "Mason said you got the invoice. Mom said you agreed. But I figured it'd be good to, just talk it through. Make sure the wire transfer goes through smoothly. You don't want to delay the deposit. Those dates go fast." I stared at her. She didn't blink. "You flew here," I said, finally finding my voice. "You flew across the country to make sure I sent a wire transfer?" "Well, I also had a miles voucher that was going to expire," she said, waving it off. "But yeah, this is important. And we figured you had some savings built up, right? You've been working that little office job, what, a year now? You probably don't have any big expenses." I clenched my jaw. "I pay my rent, my bills, my own groceries. I don't have parents covering everything like some people." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. Don't start with the martyr act. You're not a kid anymore, Cody. You should want to contribute. Mason and I are building a future. A real one. You're not even married. What do you need savings for?" That's when Emily stepped into the room, holding a mug of coffee with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her calm. "Hi," she said. "I don't think we've met. I'm Emily, Cody's girlfriend. We live here. Together. We're also trying to build a future." Taylor blinked. "Oh, I didn't realize he had a girlfriend." Emily smiled. "Most people wouldn't, since his family never asks him about his life." Taylor scoffed. "Wow. Okay. No need to get defensive." "No," I said, stepping in. "But maybe it's time someone did get defensive. Because for once, I'm not going to sit here and let you pretend this is normal." Taylor stood up, dog and all, and slung her bag back over her shoulder. "So that's it? You're not helping? After everything we've done for you?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Everything you've done for me." "Mom said you were over the drama," she said, her tone sharp now. "She said you were ready to be part of the family again. I guess we were wrong." And just like that, she walked out. No goodbye, no hug, not even a passive-aggressive, "Tell Sir Fluffington goodbye." When the door closed behind her, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Emily came over and hugged me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I think I finally am." But what Taylor didn't know, what none of them knew, was that by showing up at my door, she'd just handed me exactly what I needed. Because now, it wasn't just about the money. It was about everything. And I was done playing nice. After Taylor stormed out of my apartment, something inside me went quiet. Not empty, just quiet. Like the part of me that always hoped things would eventually go back to normal had finally stopped whispering in the background. That hope had kept me tethered to people who never saw me. And now, the tether was gone. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad either. I just felt free. But freedom has a strange side effect. When you're no longer performing for other people's approval, you suddenly have to figure out what you actually want. And I hadn't really done that before. My whole life had been about trying to be enough. Good enough to earn their attention. Quiet enough to avoid causing problems. Strong enough to swallow every slight and move on. But who was I when I stopped doing that? For a while, I didn't really know. I coasted. I went to work, came home, watched a lot of late-night documentaries with Emily, and tried not to think about the looming wedding date I hadn't paid for. I knew the silence from my parents wouldn't last forever, but I thought maybe, they'd finally take the hint. Maybe this was the start of a new chapter. Maybe they'd leave me alone. I was wrong. About a week after Taylor's surprise visit, I came home to find Emily sitting on the couch with a weird expression on her face, like she wasn't sure if she should tell me something. She handed me her phone. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post. From my mom. Can't believe how selfish some people can be. We raised our children to care for each other, to support family. But some people only show their true colors when it really matters. So disappointed. So heartbroken. But excited to celebrate Taylor and Mason's big day, no matter who shows up. Beneath it were dozens of comments from her friends. All the usual stuff. So sorry you're going through this. Some kids just forget their roots. Sending hugs, mama. And of course, Taylor had chimed in too. At least I know who actually cares. Can't let negative energy ruin our joy. I sat down and stared at the screen. Not because I was shocked, but because it was just so on brand. They were already starting the narrative, painting me as the villain, the ungrateful son who turned his back on his loving family. And I knew, if I responded publicly, it would only make things worse. So I didn't. I let them talk. But it still got to me. I'd spent years trying to stay neutral, trying not to cause waves. And now that I'd finally drawn a boundary, they were spinning it into a sob story for likes. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about control. About keeping me small. That night, I couldn't sleep. Emily tried to comfort me, but I just felt worn down. Tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. For the first time in a long time, I wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I really had abandoned my family. That was my lowest point. The next few days felt like walking through fog. I started second-guessing myself. Every decision. Every memory. I replayed old moments from childhood, trying to figure out if I'd just misunderstood everything. Maybe the favoritism hadn't been that bad. Maybe I had made things harder for them. One night, I pulled out a shoebox from the back of my closet. Inside were old report cards, awards, photos. Stuff I'd kept from high school and college. I found the acceptance letter from my university, the one I'd scanned and emailed to my mom with a note that just said, I did it. She never replied. Not even a thumbs-up emoji. I found a picture of me at age 14, holding a science fair trophy. I remembered how excited I was. My dad missed the event because Taylor had a violin recital across town. I walked home by myself that night, holding the trophy like it was made of glass. As I sat there on the floor, surrounded by little pieces of a life no one else had really witnessed, I realized something. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I wasn't dramatic. I was just done pretending I hadn't been hurt. And for the first time in years, I let myself cry. Not the quiet, angry tears you hide behind a locked bathroom door. Real, ugly, cathartic crying. Emily found me like that, sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding an old photo and sobbing into my hoodie. She didn't say anything. She just sat down beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder, and let me unravel. I think that was the turning point. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Not because I needed a mental health day, though I did, but because I needed to start over. And I didn't want to do it halfway. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down 3 questions. What do I want my life to look like 5 years from now? What's holding me back? Who do I need to stop chasing? That last one hit the hardest. Because the answer wasn't a toxic ex or some imaginary rival. It was my family. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn something they were never going to give me. Genuine, unconditional respect. I closed the notebook and made a decision. No more waiting for their approval. No more guilt tripping myself into silence. No more apologizing for growing without them. The next few weeks were surprisingly calm. I started putting more energy into work. Volunteered for a couple of leadership projects. My boss noticed. I got a bump in responsibility and a quiet rumor about a promotion that might be coming in the fall. I also started taking better care of myself, physically, mentally. I cut back on junk food. Signed up for a gym membership. Started journaling every night before bed, even if it was just a couple of sentences. I stopped doom scrolling and started setting boundaries around social media. Emily noticed too. She said I smiled more. I think she was right. Around that time, I also reached out to an old friend from college, Nate. We hadn't talked in a while, but he'd always been one of the few people who really got me. We grabbed coffee, and what started as a quick catch-up turned into a 4-hour conversation about life, boundaries, and learning to outgrow people, even if they're blood. You don't owe them your peace, he said. Sometimes breaking the cycle means being the villain in their story. I wrote that down later. I still have it stuck on my fridge. Meanwhile, the wedding date was creeping closer. The texts from my mom had stopped, probably because I never responded to the invoice or the Facebook post. I hadn't blocked them. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of claiming I was being immature, but I had muted everything. Out of sight, out of mind. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But then, one night, while scrolling through LinkedIn, I saw a name I recognized. Mason, Taylor's fiancé. He'd just posted a long-winded update about partnerships, vision, and new horizons. I rolled my eyes. But something caught my attention. He tagged a company I knew well. Not because I followed them, but because I interviewed there a year ago. On a whim, I clicked the post. Turns out Mason had recently been hired as a brand consultant for their expansion project. And in a twist of cosmic irony, I happened to know the hiring manager. We'd stayed in touch after my interview. Even though I didn't get the job, we'd emailed a few times about industry news and mutual connections. I hesitated. Then I typed out a short, polite message. Hey, just saw Mason joined your team. Funny story, we're almost related, haha. How's he settling in? 2 days later, I got a reply. Hey Cody, wow, small world. Honestly, not great. Seems like a good guy on paper, but we're running into some issues with deliverables and deadlines. And, well, basic professionalism. Might be a short-lived engagement if things don't improve. I stared at the screen and smiled. Not because I wanted Mason to fail. I didn't care about him. But because, for once, the house of cards Taylor had built was starting to wobble. And I didn't have to lift a finger. It was around that time I started thinking about my own future, not just the job stuff, but everything. Where I wanted to live. What kind of life I wanted with Emily. Whether I even wanted to keep the same last name, or if it was time to fully reinvent myself. I'd always thought of starting over as something dramatic, like moving to a new city or quitting your job and vanishing. But really, it's quieter than that. It's deleting a phone number, saying no and meaning it, showing up for yourself on a random Tuesday. And slowly, I started to rise. Not like in a movie montage. There was no upbeat music, no training sequence, no fist pump moment. Just small, steady steps. I rebuilt my confidence. I reconnected with people who made me feel seen. I started letting go of the idea that my worth had to be validated by people who never really valued me. And with every step forward, something strange happened. I started feeling lighter. I started feeling whole. But just as things were settling into a new rhythm, just as I started to believe I could really move on, another email arrived. Subject, urgent, wedding guest list update. And this one changed everything. The email subject line, urgent, wedding guest list update, sounded innocent enough. But I learned by now that anything from my family with the word urgent was rarely about actual emergencies. It was usually code for, we're losing control, and we need someone to fix it. My finger hovered over the delete key for a solid 5 seconds before curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. Hi Cody. We noticed you haven't RSVP'd yet. Taylor is really hoping you'll attend the wedding. She even asked the planner to save you a seat at the head family table. We'd also love to include Emily, of course. We want this to be a fresh start. A healing moment for all of us. Also, we wanted to gently remind you that the venue balance is due by the 14th. That's this Friday. Taylor is getting a little nervous because the planner reached out to confirm payment, and we told her you'd be taking care of it. Could you please send us confirmation once the transfer is complete? We appreciate your help so much. P.S. Taylor says Sir Fluffington wants to walk down the aisle with the flower girl, and she's hoping you'll film it. Love, Mom. I stared at it for a long time. There it was again, the gentle manipulation wrapped in faux affection, the assumption, the entitlement, the complete absence of accountability. But more than anything, what stood out was this line. We told the planner you'd be taking care of it. So they hadn't paid the venue yet. Not a cent. They'd banked on me paying for it from the beginning. Lied to the planner. And now the deadline was 5 days away, and they were scrambling to get me to cough up the cash they never intended to front themselves. I clicked back into the venue's site, rereading the FAQ section I'd scouted weeks ago. Full payment was required to secure the date. Non-refundable. Late payments. Risk cancellation. No exceptions. I double-checked the calendar. The wedding was scheduled for exactly 3 weeks from Friday. If they missed the final payment deadline this week, that dream venue would vanish. Just like that. I opened a blank document on my laptop. For the first time, I started writing. Not journaling, not venting, planning. This wasn't going to be a messy emotional outburst. I wasn't going to scream or send a long email outlining everything they'd done wrong. That's what they expected. They wanted a confrontation so they could flip the narrative again. No, I was going to do something better. I was going to let them destroy themselves, with a little help. But to pull it off, I needed to gather a few tools. First, I went back to my notes on the venue. I still had the name of the planner, Alyssa, who managed bookings. I found her email and number on the website, then spent the next hour drafting the perfect message. Hi, Alyssa. Hope you're well. I believe my family may have reserved your venue for a wedding date, under the name Taylor, last name, and Mason, last name. I just wanted to reach out for clarification. I understand there may be an outstanding balance due soon, and there seems to be some confusion about who is financially responsible. I want to make it absolutely clear that I, Cody, last name, have not agreed to be financially responsible for this booking and have made no payments toward it. If my name was mentioned as a payer, that was done without my authorization. I appreciate your time and hope this helps clear up any miscommunication. Best. Cody, last name. I sat with that email for about 20 minutes, tweaking the tone. I didn't want it to sound petty. I wanted it to sound professional, like someone who knew how to cover his bases. When I finally hit send, it felt like placing the first domino. Next, I pulled up my phone and texted Nate. Hey, quick question. Remember that venue you mentioned at coffee? The one your cousin canceled on last year? Was that venue name? He replied 2 minutes later. Yep. Why? You looking to book it? It's amazing, but $. Just doing some digging. Long story. I'll fill you in soon. Also, does your cousin still have her contact there? She does. Want me to connect you? Please. 20 minutes later, I was on the phone with Nate's cousin, who had booked the same venue for a summer wedding last year, and had backed out due to a family emergency. She was friendly, talkative, and, most importantly, willing to share the dirt. Apparently, the venue was notoriously strict. If full payment wasn't received by the date listed in the contract, they canceled the booking without warning. No email, no phone call, just gone. And good luck getting another date. The wait list was over a year long. So this wasn't just any venue. It was a status symbol. And Taylor had built her entire wedding aesthetic around it. Which meant the moment the booking was gone, the whole house of cards came crashing down. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not just wait and let them fail? Why interfere at all? Because I'd been silent for too long. I needed this to end on my terms. I needed them to know that I saw what they were doing, and I wasn't playing along anymore. But the next part had to be subtle. So I waited. I didn't respond to my mom's email. Didn't reply to the text from Taylor that followed 2 days later. Hey, just checking if you paid yet? The planner is getting kinda annoying, LOL. Let me know. The day before the deadline, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then another. Then a voicemail. It was my dad. Cody, we need to talk. You said you were covering this, and now the planner's saying she hasn't heard from you. This isn't funny. You know how important this wedding is. Don't make this into a thing. Call me back. I didn't call back. Instead, I emailed Alyssa again, just to follow up. Hi, Alyssa. Just wanted to double confirm that my name is not attached to any payments or responsibilities. I've had some concerning messages implying otherwise. Please let me know if any documentation lists me as a responsible party. Thank you again. Best. Cody. She replied within the hour. Hi, Cody. Thanks for your note. You are not listed on any official documents, and we've flagged the account with a note per your request. Please rest assured we will not accept third-party payments from individuals not listed as authorized. Regards. Alyssa. Perfect. The morning of the payment deadline, I made coffee, sat on the balcony with Emily, and waited. By 10 a.m., I got the first panic text from my mom. Cody, they're saying the payment hasn't gone through. What's happening? You said sure in the email. Then from Taylor. WTF. Did you ghost the planner? Are you kidding me right now? And finally from my dad. We're about to lose the venue. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is serious. Fix it. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I screenshotted everything. Every email, every text, every voicemail. I compiled it into a folder labeled Receipts. Just in case. By 4 p.m., the deadline had passed. By 5 p.m., I got one final message from Taylor. You're dead to me. I hope you feel good about this. You ruined everything. I didn't reply, because it wasn't over yet. They still had the venue name attached to their invites. They'd announced it on social media. They'd told all their friends. They bragged about it. But now, they didn't have it. And the fallout was going to be delicious. I closed my laptop, stood up, and turned to Emily. Ready to get dinner? She grinned. You look lighter. I smiled. I am. But inside, I was just getting started. When Friday came and went with no payment, Taylor lost her dream wedding venue. Of course, the venue didn't notify her immediately. From what I later gathered, it took her until Monday morning to figure it out. When she tried calling the planner and got a curt response, the date had been released. Their spot was gone. Just like that. She tried begging, screaming, offering a late deposit plus extra, even throwing my name around again, saying my brother's supposed to be paying, he's just been flaky. But Alyssa, the planner, was a professional, and I'd already warned her in writing not to associate me with anything. She held her ground. No payment was made. The contract terms are clear. The date is now open to our wait list. 3 hours later, I got a flurry of texts from my parents. Not angry, panicked. Mom. Cody, this is bad. The venue canceled. We need to talk now. Please call me. Dad. Do you have any idea what you've done? You embarrassed this family. You've gone too far. Mom. We're looking into backup venues, but everything is booked or hideous. You said sure, Cody. You can't back out of a promise like that. Then came Taylor's meltdown. Taylor, you ruined my life. I hope you're happy. You betrayed your own family for what? Revenge? I should have known you'd pull something like this. You've always been jealous. That last word, jealous, almost made me laugh. I'd spent most of my life invisible to them, quietly swallowing every insult, every dismissal. And now, when I finally said enough, suddenly I was jealous? No, Taylor, not jealous. Just finally done playing the role you wrote for me. The next 2 weeks were a glorious train wreck, one I watched unfold from a distance, popcorn in hand. Taylor scrambled to find a new venue. But with only 3 weeks to go before the wedding, the pickings were slim. Every place remotely close to her original aesthetic was booked. The only available options were conference rooms, strip mall, event centers, or rural barns an hour out of town, none of which had Instagram-perfect waterfall vibes. They eventually settled for a local golf course clubhouse. The carpet was hideous, the wallpaper was yellowing, and the banquet chairs had floral cushions that looked like they were ripped from a 1995 nursing home. Taylor tried to spin it online, posted an Instagram story that said, "Change of plans. More intimate, more meaningful. Hashtag blessed, hashtag still perfect." But I knew the truth. Her entire Pinterest board fantasy had crumbled. And the budget? Oh, it exploded. Because the new venue was smaller, they had to uninvite over 50 guests. Apparently, my parents spent hours making phone calls to people, awkwardly saying things like, "Oh, it's a much more intimate setting now. Very exclusive. We're heartbroken you can't be there." Translation, we assumed Cody would bankroll this. He didn't. So now we're screwed. Some guests were understanding. Others weren't. My mom posted another vague status on Facebook. Some people take joy in tearing down what others build. But we rise anyway. Family is what matters. The comments were gold. Especially one from Taylor's college roommate. "Wait, didn't y'all just cancel the waterfall venue? What happened?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But I did get one last call, from Mason. That surprised me. He hadn't said much throughout all of this, other than that original invoice text. I figured he'd ghost too. But he called. I let it go to voicemail. "Cody, listen. I don't know what the hell's going on with your family, but Taylor's losing her mind. She's blaming everyone. I didn't even know you weren't paying for the venue until the planner emailed us saying the booking was void. I'm not asking for anything, I swear. Just, I don't know, maybe talk to her before this wedding turns into a war zone. I didn't return the call because Mason had made his choice when he stepped into our family circus without ever trying to see the truth. He believed whatever Taylor fed him. That wasn't my responsibility. Let him figure it out the hard way. A few days before the wedding, I got one final email. From my mother. No subject. Just a block of text. I don't recognize the man you've become. You used to be kind, thoughtful, family first. You let resentment poison your heart. I hope one day you understand what you've done to your sister. You've broken our family. I read it twice, then deleted it. Because the truth was, she didn't recognize me. And that was a good thing. I didn't go to the wedding. Emily and I took a weekend trip to the coast instead, just the two of us. Long walks, seafood dinners, quiet nights. It was peaceful. No drama. No guilt. No performing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt proud of myself. Not because I'd hurt them, but because I'd stopped letting them hurt me. The fallout was swift and glorious. Word started spreading among extended family and old friends, people who'd known me since I was a kid. Some of them reached out, saying they'd noticed how I was always left out, even at reunions. One aunt, my mom's younger sister, messaged me privately. Just wanted to say I admire how you handled all that. You've always deserved better. I hope you're doing okay. Funny how people start speaking up once you stop being the scapegoat. Meanwhile, Taylor's wedding photos eventually surfaced. They were rough. The lighting was bad. The venue looked cramped. Sir Fluffington refused to wear the flower crown and barked during the vows. And the reception had to end early because the AC broke and half the guests left before the cake was even cut. Taylor didn't post a single group photo. Only close-ups, cropped tightly. No captions about family. Just vague quotes like, "In the end, it's who stands by you that counts." Whatever story she was trying to sell, I wasn't buying. A month later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From my dad. "Son, I don't agree with how everything went down. But I won't pretend I don't see your point now. Maybe we failed you. Maybe we didn't listen enough. I don't know how to fix it. But I'm here if you ever want to talk. Dad." I stared at it for a long time. There was no apology. Just maybe. That was the most I was ever going to get. And honestly, that was fine. Because I didn't need their apology anymore. I had my own closure. I'd always thought revenge meant fire. Drama. A grand confrontation. But real revenge? It's silence. It's walking away. It's living well when they swore you couldn't. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't burn the bridge. I just made sure they couldn't cross it again.